You and I have talked about it, here for the last couple months. Bryce Young is starting to come into his own, and they looked really, really good in the second half of the season. So hopefully
hmm
that helps put them over the edge, and you get some nice deep playoff runs.
All right, welcome back to Two Generations, One Mic. Yesterday was the opening day of NFL free agency, so we have a lot to talk about there with free agent moves and big trades. Another big weekend of college basketball as we're getting into the conference tournaments here. Great weekend in PGA, couple big NBA milestones, and we have our first ever guest on to talk about F1. So that should be exciting. Pat, good to be with you here.
Hey, bud, great to be with you. It's going to be one heck of a. We're actually going to be working to cram everything in with all of the news and everything related to the NFL, and like you said, college basketball is getting just crazy. There's nothing more fun than watching some of these buzzer beaters in these lower tiered conferences as teams are working to make the big dance. So it's going to be fun.
Let's see your jersey first, though.
Oh, right. Okay, here you go. One of my favorite, like I remember watching when they were wearing these live, and I was like, those are the ugliest uniforms ever. This is kind of like the Vancouver Grizzlies jersey, where
hmm
when you see it for the first time, you're like, oh my God, that's awful. And then 20 years later, everybody wants to wear it.
Yeah,
All right, we got the old Milwaukee Bucks jersey, and we got Ray Allen.
nice.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of people forget that he actually started his career and played a healthy number of years at Milwaukee
hmm
or in Milwaukee, because he won his NBA championship with the Big Three in Boston, and then went and tied on with the Big Three at Miami and won championships there. So let me tell you just real quick, Ben, a little bit about Ray Allen. He was born in 1975 in California. Actually went to high school in South Carolina, but attended UConn and was there from 93 to 96. He, let's see, I got to put my glasses on here. He was his sophomore year, 94, 95, he was all Big East. Then his junior year, 95, 96, he was the Big East player of the year. That was his super, super good year. They made the tournament a number of those years in there. He was in the 96 draft. He was the fifth overall pick by Minnesota, but then never actually played for Minnesota. He went through a trade and ended up in Milwaukee and played for Milwaukee from 96 to 03. Then he was a Seattle Supersonic from 03 to 07. Then he is when he made his move over with uh, Kevin Garnett to the Celtics when they built up that great team that won the championship in '08. So he was in Boston from '07 to 12, and then was in with the Miami Heat from 12 to 14. So he had a great 18-year career. When he was with the Heat, that was when you had Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh, and they won the championship in 13. And like I said, with Boston in '08. Just some
hmm
quick little stats for his career. Two-time NBA champ, as I just said, 10-time All-Star. Was the three-point champion in '01. Was on the NBA All-Rookie team in '97. Was All-NBA second team in '05. And the All-NBA third team in '01. So a very, very good career for a wonderful three-point shooter. One thing that I'll always remember, and I remember you were little when we were watching. Well, you were middle single digits. You were 7 when they won, 6 or 7 years old when they won the NBA championship against the Spurs, and he hit that last second shot over in the corner
hmm
in Miami. It was a whiteout in the crowd, and oh my God, that was just awesome. You were really getting into your NBA years, starting to really get into the NBA, and you were young, and that was just a ton of fun. The two of us watching.
Yeah, I think that was about the first year I started watching the NBA and cheering for the Heat because, yeah, LeBron is what got me into it. So, yeah, that was super cool. And I mean, for a long time, he led the league in three pointers career wise for
Yeah,
a lot of years until Steph passed him, and now Harden's passed him too. So he's
yeah,
sitting at third right now. But yeah, his shooting is just amazing.
just absolutely amazing, and he had a heck of a draft class too.
Yeah, Kobe, Allen Iverson, that in
Yeah,
2003 are up there for best of all time. It's tough to beat that group.
it is very tough.
Um,
It's tough.
yeah.
All right,
All
on
right,
we go.
hopping into NFL trades here. So we were able to hit the David Montgomery trade last week, but a lot has happened since then. So
Oh my
first,
God, it's just crazy.
yeah. So the Rams trade for Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs. They gave up a first, a third, and a fifth, or a first, a fifth, and a seventh this year, and a third next year. And then they give him a $124 million deal, which is the highest ever for cornerbacks, passing Pat Surtain. Great. You spent a lot, but it's a great move by the Rams. The Rams, awesome roster, as everyone knows. And then the secondary was their biggest issue last year. And I mean, you get a arguably top five cornerback in the league right now, as well as also we'll get to free agency moves, but signing Jalen Watson, who was the cornerback opposite of Trent McDuffie and Chiefs. So you get to bring both of those guys who have played together and really clean up your secondary.
Yeah, well, and the NFC West is, they've got. When they made this deal, they didn't know this, but that Mike Evans would be coming over to San Francisco. And you've got a young receiving crew in San Francisco, so there's going to be a lot of you're facing a lot of passing stuff going on in the NFC West. So, it was a way to be able to stay competitive with, Seattle and who else is in there? Seattle, Arizona, Niners, and Rams.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good play. They had to do it. It's kind of like it reminds me back of when the Broncos and the Patriots kept meeting in the AFC Championship game, and they just couldn't quite get over that hump, and so the Broncos brought in a couple of cornerbacks. I cannot remember their names, but it's always interesting watching. You can specifically see a team targeting someone either in their conference or their division, and it's kind of fun to see those chess moves when you know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, and even a more recent example with the Rams here, it's like when what was that, 5 or 6 years ago now, when they made the Jalen Ramsey trade, another great
Right.
cornerback, and
Yep.
they won the Super Bowl right after they got him.
Yep. Yep. No,
Um,
it's fun.
yeah. And that has to make the Rams the clear favorite in the NFC right now. I mean,
I would
addressing
think.
their only weakness like that.
Yeah.
Bills with a big win now move. They acquire DJ Moore and a fifth from the Bears in exchange for a second round pick. Past couple of years here, receiver has been the big issue for them. Keon Coleman hasn't really panned out to be that wide receiver one, and the rest of it has pretty much been receiver by committee since
Right.
Stephon Diggs was traded. And I'm biased being a Panthers fan, but I'm a huge DJ Moore guy. He's proven in two spots now he's a wide receiver one, so huge move for the Bills here to get Josh Allen, a guy.
It's a great move. I agree with you 100%. He played really well in Chicago and was a great, I think, person to have there as Caleb Williams was starting to develop a little bit. Perfect move by Chicago when they brought him in. Good move by Chicago here. Hopefully they don't, hang Williams out to dry and not get him, at least a decent receiver to fill that number 2 spot, because I would assume Rona, is it Odunze? Am I
Yeah.
pronouncing that right? Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm assuming he's going to take the number 1 role. So anyway, I'm with you. I saw that for a minute they were talking about who the Bills would bring in to be their number 1. I saw
Hmm.
that they entertained bringing Diggs back. I like this move way better.
Yeah, and it would have been cool to see Diggs come back, but I mean, he is just older now, and
Yep.
I don't know if he can handle that number one load. Where as you have DJ Moore, who's late 20s right now, still in the prime of his career. I do agree that this move is better. It will be interesting on the Bears side. I mean, you do have Rome, who's going into his third year, and then you have Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, who were rookies last season and both showed great flashes. But now with DJ Moore gone, you're going to ask all three of those guys to really pick up their workload. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, good move.
Yeah, and then staying on the Bears there, so their center, Drew Dolman, who they gave a big 4-year extension to last summer, suddenly retired right before free agency started. So they were able to acquire the Patriots center, Garrett Bradbury, which kind of just goes with what you said about teams that are in a win-now position addressing needs.
Yep.
And then, I mean, two last moves. Cowboys acquire Rashawn Gary for a 4th-round pick. They need all the defensive help they can get, so solid move from the Cowboys.
Solid. It's not earth-shattering. You
Yeah.
know, I think everyone's kind of waiting to see what happens with Trey Hendricks and or Hendrickson
Yep.
Hendrickson with the Bengals and oh shoot, the other one that I was well, it doesn't matter. You know, so they had to make sure they shored that up. You know, Trey's gonna, I'm sure, require a lot of money, and you know, Rashawn Gary is you know, a good solid player. I mean, he's not a that's not a blockbuster by any means, but you know, a good solid move
For sure. And then this one I thought was really interesting. The Colts, after signing Alec Pierce yesterday to a big 4-year, $116 million deal, trade away Michael Pittman to the Steelers, and the Steelers are going to give him an extension, apparently. They haven't released that number yet. I thought this was an interesting move for the Steelers. Obviously, their wide receiver core did need help, and this gives them a great running mate to pair with DK Metcalf. I just think the biggest question now is who's going to be throwing them the ball next year.
100%. 100%. You know, and it looks to me like they're sticking with Rodgers. I mean, it's been pretty quiet, you know. I mean, versus, you know, when we'll get to it, you know, talking about, you know, Kyler Murray, you know, who else is a veteran that's out there?
Kirk, Gino.
Yes. I mean, I don't see the Steelers doing that. I have a feeling, I just have a feeling that they're going to bring back Rodgers. And so.
I think that's what they're hoping. It's interesting to see if that, I mean, I'm sure that move helps them entertain the idea of Rodgers coming back, and we'll see what he does, because you just never know with Aaron Rodgers what he's thinking.
Yeah.
A couple free agent moves now. Chiefs signed Kenneth Walker to a 3-year, $43 million deal. Massive for them, as running back the past couple of years now has been their issue a little bit in a room that's been, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of pieced together by Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now you do get a true running back one.
Yeah, coming off of a fantastic year, a Super Bowl year.
Yep.
But and not just the fact that, you know, he was on the Super Bowl winning team. I mean, he played really well throughout the whole season. I mean, he was good. People in Seattle are bummed to lose him.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I mean, with the Chiefs here, Travis Kelce coming back on a 1-year, $12 million deal.
Yeah, what's this, his 14th season?
14th season, yep.
Yeah.
Which I feel like this also says a lot about Mahomes coming back this season, because I feel like he would not be doing this if Mahomes was going to miss the majority of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously he's in touch with where he's at from a rehab standpoint, and getting that knee repaired.
Yep. Um, Going back to the Raiders, they signed center Tyler Linbaum from the Ravens to a 3-year, $81 million deal. Massive deal for a center, but I mean, you do love to see the Raiders addressing that offensive line because that offensive line was so bad last year. You need to make all the moves you can make up front.
For sure, for sure. And it would be fun to see. As much as I've cheered against the Raiders my entire life. Through junior high and high school was Broncos. Vikings fan growing up. Then when we moved to Colorado, was a Bronco fan, and the Raiders are obviously in the same uh, um, what the AFC West, and
Hmm.
so but they need to be good. You want to see the Raiders good. Having the Raiders be the last team in the NFL just doesn't seem right.
No, I agree. And when a team is as bad as they were last year, it's just sad to see no matter what the team is.
Yeah,
Just
for sure.
so bad.
Yeah.
Panthers made two massive moves yesterday on defense, which I was super excited about. Signed edge rusher Jalen Phillips to a 4-year, $120 million deal, and then off ball linebacker Devin Lloyd to a 3-year, $45 million deal. The Jalen Phillips contract, he has been solid in his time in Miami and Philly. Panthers are betting big here by giving him $120 million.
Yeah.
But then with that, you could call it a slight overpay. But Devin Lloyd, I was hearing rumors that he was going to get 20 million plus per year in free agency, and the fact that we were able to get him on 15 million a year, it cancels out for me. I'm really happy with both those moves for a front seven that really struggled last season.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm happy for you. And they're up and coming. You and I have talked about it, here for the last couple months. I mean, I mean, Bryce Young is starting to come into his own, and they looked really, really good in the second half of the season. So hopefully
Hmm.
that helps put them over the edge, and you get some nice deep playoff runs.
Yeah. Travis Etienne leaves the Jags, signs a 4-year, $61 million deal with the Saints. This ends now 8 years where he and Trevor Lawrence were teammates between Clemson and Jacksonville, which is
Totally.
crazy.
I know, and I hate to see that. I always loved turning that on because you just knew them. You've known them for so long.
Yeah. And announcers would always comment about it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
Lawrence hands it off to his college teammate. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
So good.
yeah. Little Vikings stuff. Jalen Naylor leaves the Vikings for the Raiders on a 3-year, $35 million deal. I mean, the Raiders are trying to spend however they can to help
Yeah.
Fernando once they draft him.
Yep.
Um, Naylor, though, he was a great wide receiver three for the Vikings, so
Oh,
tough to see him
I
leave.
mean, they had a good, solid receiving core,
Yeah.
and to lose him is a real bummer. Who knows where the Vikings are going to be in anything?
Yeah, and then I've been seeing on Twitter that there is mutual interest between them and Kyler. So I'm hoping that pans out for them, that they can bring him in.
Yeah, hopefully, and then hopefully he plays well. I've always got my guard up because there was always that underlying story when the Cardinals were getting ready to enter that extension time period as he was coming off of his rookie deal, and there was question as to how much he actually studies you know the playbook
Hmm.
and opposing defenses and everything like that, and that just has always sat in the back of my head. And then from an injury standpoint, it has not been a great last couple of years. So fingers crossed, though. I mean, when he's on the field, he puts up numbers, both rushing and passing.
The talent's there, and then with how good of a quarterback coach Kevin O'Connell is, you hope that would kind of tie it all together for him. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
hopefully, hopefully.
And then breakout wide receiver for the Giants, Wandale Robinson, once Malik Neighbors went down, had a good 1,000-yard season. Titans pay him 4 years, $78 million. The Raiders and the Titans were the big spenders yesterday for two of the worst teams in the league. I mean, they're trying to improve every way possible. So good to see them give Cam Ward a wide receiver one because he did not have that last year with the
Yeah.
disappointing wide receiver core in Tennessee.
Right. Right. No, that would be good. And Cam Ward, I think, is going to be good. I mean, he did okay for his rookie season and not having much of a team around him.
Yeah.
He stayed relatively healthy. So
And then I thought this was one of the most interesting moves yesterday. Mike Evans leaving the Buccaneers for the Niners on a 3 year, $60 million deal.
at the age of, what is he, 30,
Let's see here.
31? He's early 30s, 33. Well, anyway, yes.
32.
That's 32. So it's big money for a 32-year-old wide receiver. But they were talking about what he'll bring into that locker room of their young receivers. So that's good.
For sure. For sure. And I mean, up until last season, he was Mr. Healthy, Mr. 1,000 yards, tied the record for 1,000-yard seasons in a row. So, I mean, even though how old he is, he has stayed relatively healthy. So you hope that can continue on with the Niners, especially for what feels like the last 4 years now, all the injury struggles they've had. So
Right.
big move
They've
for
really
them.
had a lot of team-wide injuries.
Yeah. And then a bunch of moves on defense. We're not going to go over all of them, or else we'll be
Yeah.
here for 4 hours today.
Right. Right.
Tua, though, signing a 1 year deal with Atlanta. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Bringing in another lefty quarterback who is also not very mobile and has dealt with his fair share of injuries as Penix is recovering here. I just don't really know what to make of this.
I know it's interesting. Well, and you're talking not just injury, you're talking concussion injuries. And so I don't know, for his sake, I like him a lot. When the Dolphins were on Hard Knocks, I always feel like you kind of get to see, a little peek behind the curtains and see what a person is like. And he, at least on that show, I thought came across very likable and a great team guy. And so I do find myself kind of rooting for him as a person. I think that I mean, you're only getting a small little glimpse, but he sure seemed to me to come across as a good person. And, you just hope it works out for him.
I think so too. And for what a mess that Miami team has been the past couple 2 years or so, with everyone kind of calling each other out in the media and all
Including
that
him.
stuff.
He did it too. And I hated that move because it just wasn't the right spot to do it. That's definitely something that you do behind closed doors. And it was too bad that happened.
Yeah. And
But I agree with you. I mean, there's been a lot of inside the team stuff.
yeah. So hopefully, yeah, the Falcons is the right spot for him. Actually, being that they're in the same division as the Panthers, I don't wish them much success, but that's besides the point.
Totally.
And then with Tua leaving, they bring in Malik Willis on a 3 year deal. Trying to bet on him early because he does not have many career starts under his belt. I mean, lost the quarterback battle to Will Levis when he was in Tennessee. Played about 6 games last year in Green Bay. Those games he did played awesome, but I mean,
he did.
You're basically betting on 6 career starts, and now you're
Yep.
going to a team that is significantly less talented than the Green Bay team you were just on.
Right.
So
Right.
it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will definitely, and that team is essentially starting from the very bottom. I mean, you got a new quarter or new coach,
Hmm.
all the way on up. New
Yeah.
coach and new quarterback. I mean, you can't start him more in the bottom with two of the head positions of field play.
Yeah. And just cutting your wide receiver one. Yeah, Malik Willis will have to step up big time here.
Yep, for
Um,
sure, for sure.
all right. I think, yeah, that's good on NFL.
Yeah, I will say one thing though.
Oh, yeah.
Watching and just I didn't watch ESPN all day yesterday, for instance,
Hmm.
but watching in the morning during Get Up, they had Adam Schefter in like this studio in Indianapolis with a map of the United States behind him, all lit up, and then each team's logo was over their city, and
Hmm.
everyone kept referring to him as like Ted Koppel on Nightline, which was an old news show before your time in the evenings. And it was just hilarious how they kept referring to him as like in this, you know, war room, bunker room related to free agency. And yeah,
That's funny. Um, yeah. No, my phone just yesterday, because I have my Adam Schefter notifications set and my Shams notifications set for when NBA stuff rolls around. And my
oh,
phone just
sure.
every 15 minutes after noon yesterday, buzz, 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 just new move, new move, new move. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
And that's fun. That's
Um,
fun when stuff like that's going on.
I, whatever's between basketball and football, I love the first day of free agency. It is
Oh,
so
totally.
much fun how many moves happen.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be interesting too because, a couple of these moves can't happen until a player is released, and the release time doesn't happen until tomorrow,
Yeah.
Wednesday. And so there will be kind of another restart of that's when we'll find out what's going to happen with Kyler Murray, and then once he seems to be the main domino related to the quarterbacks that will be available, and
Yep.
everyone's kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with him, and then I think you'll see the Geno Smith and a couple of the other ones fall, and so there'll be a little bit. Obviously, there's still going to be a bunch of free agent moves announced today, but then but it'll taper off, and then you're going to kind of see an uptick tomorrow, I think, and then it'll really quiet down.
Yeah. One interesting thing I've been seeing regarding Kyler on Instagram is he's getting paid, what is it, $38 million dollars or whatever next year by the Cardinals. And as everyone knows, when he was in college, he was drafted eighth overall by the A's. Since you're getting paid, do you go chase your MLB dream and try and be that dual sport athlete?
Wow,
That would be crazy.
that would be really crazy. That'd be nuts.
All right, moving over to college basketball here. Couple big upsets from the weekend. Duke beats UNC by 15 with no Caleb Wilson. So Caleb Wilson was supposed to be ready for the tournament after his fractured wrist a couple weeks ago, but in practice on a non-contact dunk broke his right thumb. That is so disheartening for UNC because they could have been a good, not sleeper team here in the tournament, but maybe like a fourth or fifth seed that could make a little run if he was healthy.
Yeah, and just a few weeks ago they beat Duke
Hmm.
at Duke. Um, or no, that was
That
at
that
home.
was at UNC.
Yep,
Yeah.
sorry, but no, I mean they like you said. I mean they were they going to be a number one or two, or even a three seed in the tournament? No, but could have made some waves. That would have been kind of fun. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
And he's been one of the best players in college basketball, projected number four overall pick. He's just been awesome for them.
I wonder if this is going to cause him to come back.
They do say he's going to be ready for the pre draft process, but it will be interesting how
Yeah.
it does affect him.
Right.
Marquette upsets number 4 UConn. So with this upset, St. John's wins the Big East regular season title. It's just crazy thinking about that after the St. John's UConn game last week that we talked about, where St.
Yes.
John's in the second half goes 2 for 28 with 24 misses in a row.
24
But
misses in a row. Yeah.
yeah, here they beat UConn to win the Big East.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. But that Marquette game and UConn, I'll tell you what, I'm so sick of Dan Hurley. I mean, it's just so brutal. There was a for listeners at home that there was a call against UConn. I forget exactly how the play went down, but the ref was standing right in front of UConn's bench, and specifically right in front of the coaches and Dan Hurley. And Hurley loses his mind like he always does, and kind of comes around the ref's shoulder, and you can see his chest bumps into the ref's shoulder, and he's just jawing at him right here. And the ref gives him the double T and tosses him. Um, they also said that he bumped the ref, which of course you can't do. You can't touch a referee. The Big East reviewed it and I think ruled that there wasn't enough evidence to conclude that he did bump him because it was a quite a far away camera angle, and so they ended up not suspending him or anything like that. I think they did fine him
Okay.
$25,000, I think, or something. Anyway, and I'm just I know I'm not alone either
Hmm.
in people's feelings about his on court the way he just blows his top. I mean, it's Bobby Knight esque,
Oh, for
um,
sure.
and it's just so brutal. So
Talk,
anyway,
Talking about coaches, I did see this funny post on Twitter. So Kansas blew out Arizona State this weekend, no surprise, but Bill Self got tossed. And it was an Arizona page I follow, and as Bill Self is walking out of the tunnel when he gets tossed, in the Arizona State Stadium, they have a bunch of smoke machines that shoot up the smoke around the tunnel. And as he's walking around, they hit it and shoot all the smoke up. And it said, I usually don't give Arizona State credit, but whoever was on the smoke machine here did an awesome job.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Does Arizona State still do, at the student end, behind the back, but behind the the stand, holding up the hoop? They used to have this screen that they would open, and there'd be each game was a different kind of skit or whatever.
I
This was
remember that.
about 5 or so years ago. Like
Yeah.
someone would be getting a haircut. One time they had a guy giving birth.
Hmm.
All kinds of stuff, and they called it the screen of mystery or something like that. And it would be when a guy was getting ready to shoot a free throw, they'd open the screen, and it would just be craziness. I don't know if I haven't seen it for a long, long
I
time.
don't know if yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Um,
Anyway,
BYU upsets Texas Tech with big games from AJ DeMonsa and Rob Wright III. I'm curious if this JT Toppin injury is finally catching up to Texas Tech here. Um, it'll be interesting to see what they do in the Big 12 tournament and what they end up getting seeded at.
yeah,
And then on Sunday, Michigan beat Michigan State in a big top 10 matchup. Jeremy Fears Jr. Receives another flagrant for a groin shot. The way he's been tripping guys this year and sneaking in kicks, it's very Grayson Allen-esque.
oh for sure, and it's just so annoying. God, it's kind of like Dort with OKC and the way
Hmm.
that he tripped Jokic the other day, which by
Check
the way
him.
he hit Jokic in the head last night and got a flagrant one, and actually came over and after the game apologized to Jokic.
That's
But
good.
either way, I like that. But the move last week when he tripped Jokic
Hmm.
was just such a bush league move, and so is this stuff. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to do.
I don't either. I really don't get it. Um, yeah. big news for Santa Clara last night in the West Coast Conference semifinals beat St. Mary's.
Let's
So
go Broncos.
tonight is the finals between Gonzaga and Santa Clara, which it's only a 6.5 point spread too. So
Yeah.
should be
Santa
a good
Clara's
one.
Santa Clara's solid. They're solid.
And I will say, in my lifetime, it's finally nice to see a West Coast Conference Finals that's not St. Mary's Gonzaga, because I feel like it
Amen.
is that every single year.
For
So
sure.
it'll be fun to watch that one tonight.
Yeah,
I'll be pulling for them.
for sure.
Um,
Let's go
last
Broncos.
let's go Broncos. Last two games here. Purdue loses to Wisconsin. Purdue has now lost three of their last four. I
Yeah,
They're going cold right now in the worst possible point of the season.
totally. Totally. That's just awful. But I think it's interesting that I mean, it's nothing new, you know. They
Mm.
were the second number one seed to lose to a 16 seed, you
Yep.
know, in the tournament just a few years ago. Now, they came back and made a run into the Final Four the following year, which was good. Which is, if it's kind of interesting. Remember when Virginia was the first number one
Mm-hmm.
seed to lose to a 16 seed, and then the next year they ran to the Final Four, ran actually all the way to the championship, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah.
Uh, and Purdue, you know, did the same thing. They lose to the 16 seed, and then the next year run to the Final Four. Actually, that was the Final Four that you and I went to, I think.
Yeah, we were at both of those. The one where Virginia ended up winning
You're
it, and the Purdue one,
right.
which is
You're
funny.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
three of the last four. That's tough to lose. Three of the last four, just as you're entering tournament time.
and I mean, two of those losses are to unranked teams as well, so
Right.
it's tough.
Yeah, that's
Um,
not a good look.
yeah. Nebraska beat Iowa in overtime. That's a Big Ten matchup, so huge for the Cornhuskers as they enter the Big Ten tournament here. Which we
I
look.
hope they make a good run. That would be fun. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, a non, you know, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Nebraska isn't known as a basketball powerhouse. They've had a great year. You know, they were undefeated for, you know, what, half, 2/3 of the year. You
hmm
know, they've had some losses here coming down the stretch, but to be expected. And it'd be fun if they made you know, a good deep run.
I hope so too, because I mean, thinking back in all my life, I can't think of like a good year of Nebraska basketball where they were like a consistent top 10 team like this throughout the
Yeah.
entire season.
They
So
made the tournament, you know what? They made the tournament just
co- they made it a
couple years
couple
ago
years
with
ago.
that great shooter.
Uh, Kosi Tominaga or whatever his name is, the
Yeah.
Japanese Steph Curry.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I think they lost in like, was it the first or second round, something like that? And they
Yeah.
were a mid-seed team too. But he was exciting, yeah. But from a team standpoint, I can't think of a team better than this in recent memory.
Right. Right.
Um, that'll do it for college basketball. Looking over at NBA now. So two interesting stats we saw this week. So Bam Adebayo joins Dwayne Wade as the only Miami Heat players in history to score 10,000 points for the Heat, which honestly kind of amazed me because the players they've had since really when they came on in the 90s, Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning, I know LeBron and Chris Bosh were only there for a couple of years, but they've had big names in their history, but to only have two to hit that 10,000 point club, I just didn't realize that.
Yeah. That's I did not either, and you know they've had you know a storied history. I mean, you knew Dwayne Wade was in there, but to just have only one other person, that's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and Bam, the thought that Bam has been there that long. I mean, too. I mean, it goes the other way that
Yeah.
you know he's been there that long. I mean, he's or long enough, you know, at least to put up 10,000 points.
If I remember right, this is year 9 for him now, which
Yeah,
I've it felt like yesterday I was watching the Kentucky North Carolina game when Kentucky had him and Fox and Monk and Luke May hit the game winner from the left elbow at the end.
So
It
good.
it does not feel like 9 years ago you and I were watching that game.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But oh man, those were fun when you had North Carolina and Kentucky battling with Duke and those guys, all the college blue bloods as they call them. I mean, geez, those were good
Yeah.
years.
And then last night in that Denver Nuggets game, Shea passed Wilt Chamberlain for the most consecutive 20-point games in a row with 126. I,
That's that is amazing.
that is
That's
amazing.
amazing. Um,
For
you
for
know,
how much
and
heat he gets for foul baiting and stuff, it's impressive to get 20 points in a row that many games in a row.
absolutely, absolutely, and to remember how dominant Wilt
Hmm.
was, to set the record prior, and for him to break that. I mean, boy, you don't realize how good he is. I mean, because he's not a physical dominant
Mm-mm.
person.
No.
When you see him on the court, Wilt was just massive,
Yeah.
and and he's not. And boy, he is smooth. Whew.
No, he is smooth when he gets into those little mid-range turnarounds and the
Yes.
footwork in the paint. He is so skilled. It's just too bad he gets as much heat as he does for the foul baiting stuff.
Yeah.
Because I like
Yeah.
watching him play. I do. Um,
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to appreciate what he's doing.
for sure. Jason Tatum made his debut on Friday. Had a double double. I think it was 15 points, 12 rebounds, and then followed it up with a 20-point game against a win or against Cleveland in a win.
Yep.
Crazy to see him back 10 months after a torn Achilles.
Totally.
You don't see guys come back that quick.
No, for sure. And it was fun to watch that game. I watched part of it, and the reception that he received from the crowd. First of all, it was kind of cool that it was a Friday night.
Yep.
So everyone, it's the end of the work week. Everyone's tuned up just a little bit. The energy's just a little bit higher, versus
Yeah,
a Tuesday night. You
for
know,
sure.
and when he came in and then he hit a three late in the first half.
Hmm.
Because I think he only had 5 points at halftime, if I
He
recall.
struggled in the first half. Yeah.
Yeah, and the announcers and analysts afterwards, were thinking that there was actually some nerves in there.
Hmm.
Just with the um, excitement of coming back, the energy of the crowd, the nervousness that you don't want to get hurt again, even though you've done all the rehab and everything like that, and put in all the practices, and
Hmm.
you've done some 5-on-5 work. You're still just a little bit nervous, and then the second half really got into his groove.
Yeah. It is great to see him back, but I mean, with all the other guys that tore their Achilles last year, Damian Lillard, Tyrese Halliburton,
Yep.
KD a couple years ago when he was on the Warriors and moved over to the Nets. I mean, they all tore theirs at the end of the season, similar to Tatum, and they all missed the full next season.
The full
So
next season, you're exactly right.
you just don't see
Yep.
guys come back from Achilles injuries this quick, but great to see.
No, for him to battle back is impressive. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And then last NBA point here. So the Lakers beat the Knicks in LA the other night. Luca and Austin both had great games. No LeBron as he's dealing with injury. The Lakers are now 9-2 when Luca and Austin play without LeBron. I thought that was a really
Yeah.
interesting stat. Um,
Well, it is, and I was listening to some of the Get Up guys when they bring on their basketball crew, and they were talking about how that is the case, and it's a fit in age, and it's time for the Lakers to really start to build around Luka now, and
mhm.
so they're just talking more and more about the chance that LeBron will want to come back for a farewell year, and that most likely it'll be at Cleveland. Um, we'll see. Obviously, these guys all know better than you and me, but um, that'll be interesting to watch because the Lakers are clearly more wide open when he's not on there.
And I think it's time for a quote divorce for the Lakers and LeBron, and I think it's beneficial for both parties here. I mean, LeBron's just not on their time frame right now, and this team isn't a great fit for LeBron. So it will be interesting to see
Yeah.
where LeBron decides to do a farewell tour, whether it's the names I've been hearing: Cleveland, Knicks, Golden State playing with Steph for a year. That would be pretty cool, seeing those two on the same team after the Olympics.
Okay, so here's what's interesting though, Ben. Do you think Warriors fans would be? I mean, there is a very good chance that what is happening with the Lakers right now that we're talking about could potentially happen wherever he goes. And so, he's going to want to play some. And is it just not a great floor fit for the team? And so, you get it. Yes, it would be fun to see, him on the floor with Steph as a teammate for an entire season. I wonder how that works for the Warriors as a team,
I think
or
they
wherever
do.
he goes.
Correct, wherever he goes. I honestly think the Warriors might be the best fit because in Cleveland you have Harden and Donovan, which basically creates the same problem as Luca and Austin do for him. Two more ball dominant guys.
True.
New York, it's not the exact same situation, but they do just have a lot of guys. You have Jalen, you have Cat, you have
Oh,
Al, you have OG. Whereas, I mean, Jimmy Butler's going to be out a good amount of next year with that torn ACL. Steph is really only their true ball dominant guy. And even as a ball dominant guy, you could argue he's better off the ball, which LeBron would be the perfect running mate for that. And he does fit that time frame a little better. 1 year kind of, let's see what we can do. So it is really intriguing.
or at the end of the season, do you make the last game of the season, whether it's a playoff game or a regular season game here with the Lakers, and give just an awesome, it's been real. I mean, you saw John Elway do it. You saw Peyton Manning do it. Now, granted, it was after winning Super Bowls, and
Hmm.
it was standing on the podium, holding the trophy, and that was it, right off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. There's something to be said for that too, on how cool that would look.
I'd bet money he does a farewell tour.
No, for sure, I would too. I mean, he did when he had his first free agency move, he did a whole TV show. So
Hmm.
I would not expect anything different, but it would be kind of cool to just kind of, it's been real and it's been fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Me as a
Anyway,
LeBron fan, though, I'd want the farewell tour just
I know,
because
I get it.
I need to go to. I want my last game watching LeBron, like in person, knowing it's the last time I'm going to watch him.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yep.
we'll
No, I
be.
get it. And I remember when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had his last season, and each arena that he went to the last time, they gave him, kind of a gift. Like one time they
Mhm.
gave him a rocking chair, and I forget where, and stuff like that. I mean, it was kind of fun. Anyway.
And you and I saw Kobe play in his last season, and that was
Yep.
so cool knowing we were watching one of the last Kobe games ever.
Yeah. Nope. You're right. I mean, there's something to be said for that too. Absolutely. I'm not. I'm
Hmm.
not saying there isn't. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, let's kick it over to golf here. So Akshay Bhatia wins at Bay Hill in a playoff. First playoff there since 1999.
Yep.
And fun stat you gave me yesterday, Akshay has three PGA Tour wins all in the playoffs. That's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
That is crazy, and it's kind of fun. I think this win put him into the top 20 players in the world, which is fun. He's very much an up and coming U.S.
Hmm.
player. He's a lefty, and he's got this great ball flight that is just awesome. It's fun to watch. He also putts with a broomstick. He's getting some pushback here in the days since Bay Hill, where so you are not allowed to anchor a club. So the way that the broomstick used to work is you would actually butt it up to your sternum right there. There
Hmm.
also were belly putters where you put the butt of the putter right into your belly button, basically. They outlawed that a handful of years, however many years ago. And so there are some people, Bernard Langer and a couple other guys, Lucas Glover, that stayed with the broomstick and they hover their hand out in front of their chest and then hinge it right there. But their hand is not touching their chest. And sometimes it can look like it might be because if they're hunkered over and their hand is buried in their shirt, so their
Yep.
shirt's kind of draped over their hand. A player of that caliber should and would call that on themselves if their hand. I mean, they're not going to let their hand anchor that. But
Yeah.
anyway, big win by him. It was great. Daniel Berger started the day with a 2-shot lead.
Hmm.
At the turn, he had grown it to 4. And at one point, mid round, he had it to 5. And through a couple of different, Akshay birdies and Berger bogeys in the last few holes coming down the stretch, they end up tied. And one playoff hole, Akshay hit a couple of good shots into 18 in both the end regulation and then in the playoff, and pulled out the win. It was really cool. So now we head to Sawgrass, TPC Sawgrass, just outside of Jacksonville in Ponte Verde, and it's the Players Championship. Some people call it the fifth major. You have the strongest field in golf along with the majors, and it should be a fun week. Justin Thomas came back last weekend at Bay Hill, was his first tournament of the year since back surgery in November. Did not play very well, so it'll be interesting how he rolls over to Sawgrass. He won there a few years ago. It's going to be wide open. Scotty Scheffler, of course, is the favorite, but boy, he has not been playing great.
Yep.
Other interesting note from Bay Hill, Rory McIlroy withdrew on the weekend for injury, and so that was kind of tough to watch.
Yeah.
I would assumption totally on my part is that he just felt a little discomfort, and knowing what he's entering here, you got the Players this week. In a few weeks, we've got the Masters starting the majors, the run of the majors over the next few months.
Hmm.
He just didn't even want to risk it. So
Makes sense.
I have not seen anything that he's out for the Players. I would assume he's going to be good to go. So it's going to be this weekend. Will be fun. The Players Championship weekend is always awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Um, and then entering our final segment here, this or that, the question of the day is favorite college football player of all time.
Jeez Louise.
I'll let you kick it off. Feel free to toss some honorable mentions in there. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Um, watching, uh, Barry I always go back to Barry Sanders, and there's highlights of him, running against or when he played for the Lions, and everyone knows those highlights. Go back to Oklahoma State when he played there, won the Heisman.
Hmm.
He was equally exciting to watch. I mean, that
Yeah.
was it was super fun to to watch that. Um, he was I would say he is for me my number one guy, but I'm going to blow you away real quick with
Yeah.
my soft spot favorite college player, and it's not necessarily because of him as an overall career player,
Hmm.
but I will always have a soft spot for Chris Davis with Auburn, who ran back.
Yep.
Alabama went for a last second field goal. They were tied,
Hmm.
and Chris Davis, if a field goal attempt is short, you can actually receive the field goal and run it back. And he ran it back at Auburn. And you and I were watching, and it's the first time I remember you and I watching a college football game together. And that that just intrigued you so very much to where you said, can we please go watch a football game of these two teams in
Hmm.
Auburn sometime, which we ultimately did and had an equally exciting ending. But
Yes.
I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Chris Davis
Yeah.
just because of that play. and what it did for you and me in our tie with college football. But Barry Sanders is mine.
And I would say that's the first time you and I watched together like a historical sports moment, like one
Yeah,
that everyone knows.
yeah,
Yeah. So that was
for sure.
those are two good ones. Yeah. I have that same soft spot for Chris Davis. I think mine though, it probably has to be Cam Newton. I mean, I I watched a little bit of him when he was actually playing, but then just going back now and watching replays of his time at Auburn, what he did during that Heisman season, after all the Florida stuff and JUCO stuff, the way he was just so dominant in college football, similar to how he was in the NFL, but so big and fast and just ran through everyone
Yeah.
and led that Auburn team to a national championship as well was so cool.
Oh, for sure.
And then, I mean, a couple more recent guys that I truly watched when they played. It's hard. I mean, it could be anyone from that 2019 LSU team. They were so much fun.
Oh,
Watching Justin and Jamar out there, Joe Burrow just throwing the perfect balls to them. Any one of those guys could be up there too. They were a ton of fun.
yeah, for sure. And that, I mean, this was a great question that you came up with, and I mean, it's just fantastic because you could just sit here and go guy after guy after guy after guy. And I know in some of our this or that's, in episodes past, I've gotten a little bit long-winded listing out everything, so I wasn't going to do that. But yeah, you could just sit here and go down the line of some of these guys. It's kind of interesting though. If I go back to players that I watched wearing the same uniform for a number of years together, whereas now you're the player, and a lot of times the uniform changes once, if not twice, throughout a college career.
Yeah. And I will add one more in there that just came to mind that I don't know how I forgot about. But Tetero McMillan, when I was there with him at Arizona, he
Oh,
was just like you said, 3-year guy, had the opportunity to leave with Fafita, didn't want it to stay, and he played a lot too as a true freshman. I'll never forget, I watched basically every home game he had, and he had one game where he set the Big 12 record for receiving yards in a game. I think it was right around 340. It was incredible to watch, and
yeah,
just how dominant he was during his 3 years there. He'll always be one of my favorites for sure.
yeah, for sure. And it was fun that you had, you know, some, you went through an interesting football life at Arizona where
Very up and
you
down.
had your first year where they only got one win, and
Hmm.
then your junior year where they made it up to number 16,
Uh,
um,
13, yeah.
or 13. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And then senior year actually ended up being decent, in the end. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you kind of ran the whole gamut in your 4 years there.
It was the opposite of basketball, yeah, where we were good every year.
Yeah,
Football, you
right.
never knew what you were getting. Yeah.
Right. That's true. That's awesome.
All right, great show today. We have college basketball conference tournaments coming up, so that'll be fun to talk about next week. Players Championship, like you said. So yeah,
Well,
it'll be
we're going
another
to
good
actually be
episode.
able to do our first NCAA bracket breakdown because
Ve-
next Sunday is Selection Sunday. So we'll
You're
be
right. Yes.
breaking some of those down. I mean, that's going to be really, really, really exciting. And get ready for my jersey next week.
Oh yeah, it'll be good. All right, thank you guys. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Instagram and TikTok to Gen One Mike Pod. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Love it. Love you, bud. Talk to you later.
Love you.